Does Mob know that Reigen is lying to him? This is a remake of a video I made a few months ago. I want to expand on some of the ideas in that video and also respond to some really good points that people brought up in response to it. I'm also excited to use some of this awesome Season 2 B-roll. That being said, my main argument has not changed. Throughout this story, Mob struggles to come to terms with what he knows deep down to be true. He doesn't really care whether or not Reigen is a psychic. That's not that important to him. But if Reigen is not a psychic, that means that he's lying to Mob and using him. And that is deeply, deeply troubling to Mob. Almost nothing is more upsetting to him than the thought of someone using him for his powers. He's been fighting this entire time to be seen as a whole person, someone who has value independent of his powers. He does not take this deception lightly, because it signifies something much more important. Like everything else in Mob Psycho, it's not really about the psychic powers, but that serves to illustrate the major tension in Mob and Reigen's relationship. In a way, this is really about all the ways that adults lie to children and present themselves as infallible. As Mob grows up, he begins to see that Reigen is a real person with flaws. It's a difficult time in their relationship, and there are definitely growing pains, but they need to get past this in order to see each other as equals. Because of the nature of this video, there will be major manga spoilers from this point on. There's really no satisfying way to talk about this without discussing the end of the manga. When Mob first meets Reigen at the age of 11, it's clear that he believes him wholeheartedly. And it might be cheating to use an omake as evidence, but the Smoke Tricks omake shows that Mob fully believed Reigen at the beginning. Mob isn't going to him because he's an adult who sometimes gives good advice. He's going specifically because he thinks Reigen has the same powers he has. It's implied that this encounter follows the incident where Mob injured his brother Ritsu. He's terrified of himself, and he really needs an adult who's gone through the same thing to prove that everything can be okay. From this point on, their relationship has evolved quite a bit. Throughout Season 1, we see that Mob values the advice and support that Reigen gives him, regardless of whether he has powers. But we can't lose track of the reason why Mob became his student in the first place. When Mob Psycho 100 begins, Mob is 14 years old, and the cracks are forming. They have probably been forming for some time now. However, he is still struggling to accept the fact that Reigen is lying to him. This explains why so many of Mob's words and actions seem contradictory. At times, he'll accept Reigen's excuses without another thought, but at other times, he'll act in ways that only make sense if he knows the truth. I think the phenomena of Mob saving Reigen is mostly him acting on instinct. He's not having a thought process of, my master's a fraud, so I need to save him. The decision is happening on a more subconscious level. Mob's contradictory actions stem from a much deeper issue. He has been holding two distinct opinions of Reigen. On the surface is a good person who helps me and cares about me, and just below that veneer, a liar who's only interested in using me for my powers. Of course, neither of these is 100% true. Reigen is a little bit of both. But this nuance is understandably difficult for a child to accept, especially when he has known and relied on Reigen for so long. Separation Arc is the first step towards Mob reconciling these two sides of Reigen. He's beginning to understand that not everything Reigen says is true, and he takes some time away to build his own independence. Reigen, in turn, recognizes how much Mob has grown up, and at the end, he's ready to clear the air. But he asks Mob to be the one to say it. This conversation is so simple on the surface, but there's a lot going on subtextually. Mob says that Reigen's true identity is a good guy. Despite the slightly different English subtitles, the phrase in Japanese is the same as what Reigen said to him 3 years ago. Mob is purposefully calling back to their first meeting as a way of saying, I know you don't have psychic powers, but you're still a good person. The problem is, Reigen wants to believe this, but he can't. Although their relationship is much better going forward, neither of them get much closure from this. Reigen has admitted to himself that he has lied to and used Mob, but he needs to admit this to Mob. They need to put the truth of their relationship into words. And in chapter 100, this is exactly what happens. We see that these two sides of Reigen correspond to two sides of Mob. Shigeo says, "That person is only interested in putting my power to work. That's all there is to the relationship between me and him." And Mob argues back, "I can trust Master Reigen. I have been saved by him so many times." When Reigen confesses the truth, these two sides of Reigen come together, and Mob finally sees him as both a liar and a good person, somebody who has used him, and somebody who cares about him. Of course, this realization helps to mend Mob's own fractured personality, but that's another video, one that's coming very soon. To wrap things up with a note of bitterness, I think it's a huge disservice to this story to say that Mob has known the truth all along, or that he doesn't care that Reigen has lied to him. 11-year-old Mob did not leave Reigen's office that day thinking that he was a fraud. And while it's true that Mob doesn't care whether Reigen has psychic powers, the fact that someone he trusts has been lying to him for years, that hurts. This gradual realization has obviously been painful for him, and contributed to his own issues of repression and self-loathing. When Mob's biggest role model is someone who hides his true identity, it's no wonder that Mob does the same. We don't see much of Mob's internal monologue on this topic, and he is admittedly hard to figure out, but this is the only reading that explains all of his words and actions. He knows that Reigen is lying to him, and it really does bother him, so he represses that knowledge for as long as he can. This reading also contributes to the bigger picture of Mob Psycho 100 as a coming-of-age story. Mob learns to see that people aren't all good or all bad, but it's difficult to apply this lesson to an adult he has idolized since childhood, and, of course, to himself. Thanks for listening. There's so much to unpack in Mob Psycho that I'm sure I'm still missing really important aspects of this, but I wanted to give a little more attention to this topic since, to me, it's really at the heart of this story. I'm looking forward to more great discussions in the comments, so please let me know your thoughts.